The morning sun cast long shadows across New Eden City as Captain Jin walked through the busy streets. Children ran past him, laughing as they chased each other toward the school. Their voices echoed off the metal buildings that humans had built on this distant world. Jin smiled and waved at them. These kids had never seen Earth. To them, this was home. New Eden Colony sat on the planet Kepler 442b, far from Earth. 50,000 people lived here now. They had been building this place for 15 years. What started as a small research station was now a real city with homes, schools, shops, and parks. The air smelled clean and fresh. Nothing like the polluted atmosphere of Earth that Jin remembered from his childhood. Dr. Yuna stood in her laboratory, looking through her microscope at soil samples. She had been studying this planet since the first day they arrived. Every day brought new discoveries. The planet was perfect for human life. The soil was rich, the water was clean, the weather was mild. It was like this world was waiting for them to find it. Yuna heard footsteps and looked up. Her assistant, Kira, walked in carrying more samples from the Eastern Valley. Kira was only 22 years old and had been born here on New Eden. She was part of the first generation of humans to grow up among the stars. "The soil tests look good," Kira said, setting down the samples. "The farmers in Sector 7 think they can grow twice as much food next season." Yuna nodded. Food production was always important. They needed to feed 50,000 people, and more ships arrived from Earth every few months. The colony was growing fast. Engineer Day climbed down from the defensive tower, wiping sweat from his face. The defensive systems were working perfectly, but they needed constant maintenance. Not that they expected trouble. In 15 years, they had never needed to use the weapons. The galaxy seemed peaceful. They had contact with 6 different alien species, and all of them were friendly traders. Day looked across the valley where human families were building new homes. Children played in the yards while their parents worked. It was a good life here, better than Earth in many ways. There was room to grow, clean air to breathe, and hope for the future. Communications. Officer Nari sat at her station in the command center. Her job was to handle all contact with other worlds and alien ships. Today was quiet. A few trade ships had checked in from the outer system. A message from Earth would arrive later, but the distance meant it would take weeks for any signal to reach them. The aliens they knew were mostly peaceful traders. The Zelanti brought rare metals in exchange for human art and music. The Corvus traded advanced medical supplies for human food. The Belthani were scholars who loved to study human culture and language. After 15 years, these relationships had become routine and comfortable. Nari watched her daughter Hio through the window. The 8-year-old was playing with friends in the park next to the command center. They were building something with blocks, probably a spaceship. All the kids here dreamed of exploring the stars when they grew up. Commander Kang finished his morning patrol around the colony's edge. Everything looked normal. The automated sensors showed no movement in the forests. The sky was clear. The only sounds were human voices and the hum of machinery. Kang had been a soldier for 20 years, but he had never fought in a real war. There had been small conflicts on Earth, but nothing major. Humanity had learned to solve most problems with words instead of weapons. That was probably why they had been so successful in space. Other species respected them because they chose peace when possible. Scout leader Minho returned from his weekly survey of the surrounding area. He led a team of young scouts who explored the planet and mapped new regions. Today, they had found a beautiful waterfall about 50 kilometers north of the city. Minho was already planning to recommend it as a site for a new settlement. His scouts were all locals, young people who had grown up on New Eden. They knew this world better than anyone. They could track animals, predict weather patterns, and find the best routes through the forests. They were the future of this colony. In the school, teacher Juno was reading to his class of 7-year-olds. The story was about brave explorers who traveled to distant worlds. The children listened with wide eyes, imagining their own adventures among the stars. Some of them would probably become explorers themselves one day. Juno loved teaching these kids. They were curious about everything. They asked questions about Earth, about other planets, about alien species. They wanted to learn and grow and make their mark on the universe. He could see the potential in each of them. Medic Sora finished her rounds at the medical center. The colony was healthy. A few minor injuries from construction work. Some routine checkups for pregnant mothers. The biggest medical challenge was usually treating children who had eaten too much candy from the weekly market. Sora had delivered many of these children. She had watched them take their first steps, say their first words, start school. They were like her own family. The whole colony felt like one big family. Everyone looked out for everyone else. As evening approached, families gathered for dinner. Children told their parents about their day at school. Parents shared news from work. The community center filled with people playing games, sharing stories, and making plans for tomorrow. Jin walked home to his apartment where his wife, Yoon, was cooking dinner. Their daughter, May, was doing homework at the kitchen table. She was 10 years old and wanted to be a scientist like Dr. Yuna when she grew up. Jin helped her with math problems while Yoon told them about her day working in the agricultural center. This was the life they had all come here to build. A place where humans could live in peace, raise their children safely, and reach for the stars. The colony had faced challenges over the years, equipment failures, severe weather, supply shortages, but they had overcome everything together. As night fell, the city lights created a warm glow against the alien sky. 2 moons hung overhead, casting silver light on the human settlement. In the distance, the sounds of the native wildlife created a gentle symphony. This world had welcomed them. 50,000 people slept peacefully under those alien stars. Children dreamed of tomorrow's adventures. Parents planned for the future. The colony was strong, growing, and full of hope. None of them knew that tomorrow, everything would change forever. The peaceful life they had built was about to be tested in ways they could never imagine. The galaxy that seemed so friendly was about to show them a darker side. But tonight, New Eden Colony was exactly what humanity had hoped for when they first reached for the stars. A new home where their children could grow up free and safe. The future looked bright, and they had no reason to fear what was coming. The alarm started screaming at dawn. Nari jumped from her bed and ran to the communications center. The automated systems had detected something massive approaching the planet. Her screen showed readings that made no sense. The objects were huge, bigger than any ships humanity had ever built. Commander Kang reached the command center at the same time as Captain Jin. Both men stared at the display screens in shock. 12 enormous ships were dropping out of hyperspace just outside the planet's orbit. Each ship was the size of a small city. "Have we seen anything like this before?" Jin asked. Nari shook her head. "Never. These aren't like any alien ships in our database. The energy signatures are completely different." Dr. Yuna arrived with her scientific team. She studied the readings and frowned. "These ships, they're not entirely mechanical. I'm detecting biological components. It's like they're part machine, part living creature." The ships moved closer to the planet. They had no smooth metal surfaces like human or other alien vessels. Instead, they looked organic, like giant sea creatures covered in dark plates. Strange. Lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. Engineer Day powered up the colony's defensive systems. They had plasma cannons and missile launchers, but they were designed to protect against pirates or small threats. Looking at these massive ships, Day realized their weapons might as well be toys. "Try to contact them," Jin ordered. Nari activated the communication array. She sent greetings in 12 different languages, including the standard galactic trade, language that all known species used. She tried different frequencies and signal types. The alien ships gave no response. Maybe they don't understand our languages, suggested Kira, who was helping Yuna analyze the ship designs. All spacefaring species know the trade language, Nari replied. They have to, or they couldn't function in galactic society. Hours passed. The alien ships continued to move closer, but they made no attempt to communicate. Their silence was more frightening than any threat would have been. Scout leader Minho took his team into the hills around the colony to get a better view of the sky. Through their telescopes, they could see details of the alien vessels. The ships had no visible windows or openings. The surface moved slightly, like skin breathing. Dark fluid dripped from some areas into space. "Those aren't ships," whispered one of Minho's scouts. "They're alive." Commander Kang called an emergency meeting with all department heads. The colony's leaders gathered in the command center while the alien ships hung in space above them like storm clouds. "We need to consider evacuation," Kang said. "If these aliens are hostile, we're badly outnumbered. Evacuate to where?" asked Day. "The nearest human colony is 6 months away. We have civilian transport ships, but they can't outrun military vessels." Dr. Yuna studied her readings. "I'm detecting energy patterns I've never seen before. These ships are drawing power from somewhere, but not from any fuel source I recognize. It's almost like they're feeding on something." Teacher Juno had dismissed school early and sent the children home to their families. The streets that had been full of playing children the day before were now empty and quiet. Parents kept their kids inside, unsure what was happening but sensing danger. Medic Sora prepared the medical center for emergencies. She had no idea what kind of injuries alien weapons might cause, but she gathered all available supplies and called in her entire staff. As the day continued, more details became clear. The alien ships were positioning themselves in specific locations around the planet. They weren't randomly approaching. They had a plan. "It's a blockade formation," realized Day. "They're cutting off all escape routes." The ships finally stopped, moving when they reached the planet's upper atmosphere. 12 massive biomechanical monsters hung in the sky, visible even in daylight. Their presence cast shadows over New Eden City. Jin tried one more time to contact them. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Jin of New Eden Colony. Please respond. We wish to establish peaceful communication." Silence. Then something changed. One of the alien ships began to descend toward the planet's surface. As it came closer, the colonists could see it more clearly. The ship's surface rippled, like muscles under skin. Tendrils hung from its underside, reaching toward the ground below. Yuna's instruments detected new energy readings. "They're scanning us," she reported. "Deep scans going right through our buildings and into the ground." "Scanning for what?" Jin asked. Before Yuna could answer, the scanning stopped. The alien ship hovered over the colony for several minutes, then began to rise back toward space. But something had changed. The colonists could feel it, even if they couldn't see it. Minho and his scouts reported strange movements in the forests around the colony. Small objects had been dropped from the alien ship during its scan. The objects were moving through the trees heading toward the human settlement. "Drones," Day identified them through the scouts' camera feeds. "They're sending in reconnaissance. Drones." The drones were unlike anything the humans had seen. They moved like insects, scuttling over rocks and through bushes. They had multiple legs and what looked like sensor equipment, but they were clearly biological rather than mechanical. 1. Drone reached the edge of the colony. Day tried to shoot it with a plasma rifle, but the energy beam passed right through it. The drone wasn't entirely solid. It was made of some kind of energy field that could become physical when needed. The drone moved through the colony streets, ignoring the adults completely. It seemed interested only in one thing: the children. When it passed the school, it stopped and scanned the building thoroughly. When it found a playground, it spent long minutes examining the equipment. "It's studying our kids," Jin realized with growing horror. More drones appeared throughout the colony, all of them focused on areas where children spent time. They scanned homes with families, schools, playgrounds, and daycare centers. They ignored everything else. Nari tried desperately to contact other human colonies or Earth, but something was jamming their communications. The alien ships were blocking all signals from leaving the planet. As night fell, the drones completed their survey and returned to the ships above. The colonists gathered in their homes, holding their children close. Everyone could feel that. Something terrible was about to happen. Dr. Yuna worked through the night, analyzing all the data they had collected. The alien ships, the biological technology, the focus on children, it all pointed to something horrible. Jin, she called him to her laboratory. Her face was pale with fear. I think I know what they want. She showed him her analysis of the alien technology. These ships run on neural energy, living brain power, the scanning patterns, the focus on children. They're looking for young, developing minds. Jin felt his blood turn cold. You mean they don't see our children as people? Yuna whispered. They see them as fuel. Above them, the alien ships pulsed with dark energy, waiting for dawn. In a few hours, the colonists would learn the true horror of what they faced. The peaceful galaxy they thought they knew was about to reveal its darkest secret. The Vorthak had found them, and they were hungry. The attack began at sunrise, but not on the military targets. Captain Jin was rushing toward the command center when the first screams reached his ears. They came from the elementary school 3 blocks away. He changed direction and ran toward the sound, his heart pounding with a fear he had never felt before. The alien ships had descended during the night, silent as shadows. Now they hovered over New Eden City like giant predators. Thick cables dropped from their undersides, reaching down into the streets below. At the end of each cable was a device that hummed with terrible energy. Jin reached the school and saw horror beyond imagination. The alien devices had broken through the walls. Inside, children were trapped in glowing fields of energy. They were still alive, still conscious, but they couldn't move or speak. Their eyes showed pure terror. Teacher. Juno lay on the floor, blood pooling around his head. He had tried to protect his students and paid with his life. The aliens had simply brushed him aside like an insect. Jin drew his weapon and fired at the nearest device. The plasma bolts had no effect. The energy field absorbed them and grew brighter. Inside the field, 7-year-old Hana was frozen in place. Tears streaming down her face as something invisible drained her mind. More screams echoed from across the city, the playground near the market, the daycare center by the hospital, the youth center where teenagers gathered after school. Every place where children spent time was under attack. Medic Sora ran from building to building trying to help, but there was nothing she could do. The alien devices didn't injure the children's bodies. They were stealing something else entirely. The spark of intelligence, the developing neural patterns that made young minds so special. She found Mrs. Park collapsed outside the kindergarten, sobbing as she watched her 5-year-old son trapped in the energy field. The boy's eyes were slowly going blank as his thoughts were drained away. "Please," Mrs. Park begged Sora, "please save him." Sora tried everything she knew. Medical scanners, emergency drugs, even physical force to break the energy field. Nothing worked. She could only watch as the light faded from the child's eyes. Commander. Kang organized his soldiers to fight back, but their weapons were useless. The alien technology was beyond anything they understood. Plasma rifles, missile launchers, even explosive charges had no effect on the energy fields. Fall back to defensive. Positions, Kang ordered. But what were they defending against? The aliens weren't trying to conquer the colony. They were harvesting it. Engineer Day reached the power station and tried to shut down the colony's energy grid. Maybe cutting the power would disrupt the alien devices. But the devices had their own power source. They continued working even in the darkness. Day watched in horror as children throughout the city were slowly drained of their minds. The alien devices were efficient and thorough. They left the bodies alive but took everything that made the children who they were. Dr. Yuna ran her scanners frantically, trying to understand the alien technology. The energy patterns were unlike anything in her database. The devices were converting neural activity into pure power, then transmitting it up to the ships above. "They're feeding," she reported over the radio. "The ships are literally feeding on our children's minds." Scout leader Minho and his team tried to evacuate children from the outer settlements, but the alien ships were everywhere. Every time they found a group of kids, the energy fields would appear and trap them before the humans could react. Minho watched his own nephew, a bright 12-year-old who wanted to be an explorer, caught in one of the fields. The boy's face showed recognition for a moment, then confusion, then nothing at all. His mind was gone, leaving only an empty shell. Communications officer Nari desperately tried to send distress signals to other human colonies. But the alien ships were jamming everything. No word of the attack would reach the outside galaxy. New Eden was completely cut off. Her daughter Hayo was trapped in their apartment building. Nari could see the energy field through the window, but she couldn't reach her. Every time she tried to get closer, alien drones would force her back. Captain Jin fought his way through the streets toward his own home. His daughter May should be there with his wife Yoon. But when he arrived, he found Yoon unconscious on the floor and May caught in an energy field in her bedroom. Jin fired every weapon he had at the device. He threw furniture at it. He tried to break the energy field with his bare hands. Nothing worked. He could only watch as his daughter's mind was slowly drained away. May looked at him with confused eyes. She tried to speak, but no words came. Her brilliant mind, full of dreams about becoming a scientist, was being consumed to power alien war machines. "Daddy?" she whispered once, before the light left her eyes forever. Jin fell to his knees, screaming in rage and grief. Around the city, other parents were experiencing the same horror. Thousands of children were being reduced to empty shells while their families watched helplessly. The harvest continued for 6 hours. The alien devices worked methodically, taking every child they could find. Babies as young as 6 months old, teenagers about to graduate from school. Anyone whose mind was still developing was fair game for the terrible machines. Medic Sora found herself in a makeshift triage center, but there was nothing to treat. The children's bodies were unharmed. They breathed. Their hearts beat. But their minds were gone. They stared at nothing with empty eyes, no longer recognizing their own parents. By noon, the aliens had taken everything they wanted. The energy fields disappeared. The cables retracted into the ships above. The harvest was complete. 8,000 children had been drained of their minds. They were still alive in body, but everything that made them human was gone. They would need constant care for the rest of their lives, unable to speak, think, or recognize the world around them. The alien ships began to rise, their hulls now glowing with the stolen energy. They had what they came for. The humans were no longer useful to them. Captain Jin stood in the empty streets, holding his daughter's lifeless body. Around him, other parents did the same. The city that had been full of laughter and young voices was now silent except for the sound of grieving families. Dr. Yuna stumbled through the wreckage, her scientific mind trying to process what had happened. The aliens had treated human children like a resource to be harvested, not as enemies to be defeated, but as cattle to be consumed. The ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving New Eden Colony broken and hollow. The survivors stood among the ruins of their peaceful life, changed forever by what they had witnessed. They had learned the galaxy's darkest secret. Some species survived by destroying others. Some saw intelligence not as something to be respected, but as something to be consumed. The humans had been naive. They had believed in peace and cooperation. They had thought all intelligent life was precious. Now they knew better. Now they understood that in this universe, innocence was just another word for weakness, and they would never be weak again. The children were gone, but their memory would fuel something darker than the alien technology that had consumed them. It would fuel humanity's transformation from peaceful explorers into something the galaxy had never seen before, something that would make the Vorthak wish they had never found New Eden. The message reached Earth 3 weeks later. Admiral Hanna was reviewing routine reports when the emergency signal arrived from New Eden Colony. At first, she thought it was a technical error. The report was too horrible to be real. 8,000 children. Their minds drained away while they were still alive. An entire generation destroyed in 6 hours. Hanna had served in the Solar Defense Force for 30 years. She had seen war, disaster, and tragedy, but nothing had prepared her for Dr. Yuna's testimony. The scientist's voice was flat and broken as she described watching children's minds being consumed by alien machines. "The bodies are still alive," Yuna reported. "They breathe and their hearts beat. But everything that made them human is gone. They don't recognize their parents. They can't speak or think or dream. They're empty shells." The recording showed Captain Jin holding his daughter. The 10-year-old girl stared at nothing with blank eyes. She had wanted to be a scientist like Dr. Yuna. Now she couldn't even remember her own name. Admiral Hanna had to stop the recording 3 times. Each time she tried to continue, the horror overwhelmed her. This wasn't war as humans understood it. This was something far worse. The news spread across human space like wildfire. Every colony, every space station, every Earth city received the transmission. Parents held their children closer. Teenagers who had dreamed of exploring space suddenly wondered what was waiting for them among the stars. President Tay called an emergency session of the Human Council. Representatives from every human world gathered in the assembly hall on Luna Station. The mood was unlike anything in human history. "We face an enemy that sees our children as food," President Tay announced. "They don't want our territory or our resources. They want to harvest our young." The recording from New Eden played on screens throughout the chamber. Hardened politicians and military officers wept openly as they watched the alien machines drain children's minds. Some representatives had to leave the room. General Leah had been preparing for retirement after 40 years of military service. She had planned to spend time with her grandchildren on Mars Colony. Now she stood before the Human Council with fire in her eyes. "This is not a political conflict," General Leah declared. "This is not about territory or trade routes. This is about the survival of our species. These aliens have declared war on human childhood itself." The debate that followed was unlike any in human history. There were no arguments about cost or casualties or political consequences. Every representative understood what was at stake. "We need to find these aliens and destroy them completely," demanded the representative from Europa Station. "Not defeat them. Not negotiate with them. Destroy them." "How many other species have they done this to?" asked the delegate from Titan Colony. "How many children across the galaxy have died to feed their machines?" Dr. Yuna's testimony continued, via long-range transmission. She described the alien technology, the biological ships, the efficiency of the harvest. Her scientific training kept her voice steady, but her hands shook as she spoke. "They've done this before," she concluded. "The machines were too perfect, too efficient. This wasn't their first harvest. They've been doing this for a long time." Scientist Bora from the Advanced Research Division stood to address the council. She was humanity's leading expert on alien technology, but even she was shocked by the Vorthak devices. "Their technology is based on neural consumption," Bora explained. "They've built an entire civilization on stealing the minds of other species. Children. Every ship, Every weapon, every system runs on the suffering of young minds. The full horror sank in. This wasn't just an attack on New Eden. It was evidence of a systematic campaign of genocide against young life throughout the galaxy. President Tay made the announcement that would change human history forever. I am declaring a state of total war against the species responsible for the New Eden massacre. This is not a military conflict. This is an extinction event. Either they will cease to exist, or we will. The vote was unanimous. Every human world, every colony, every space station committed their resources to the war effort. For the first time in human history, the entire species was united with a single purpose. Admiral Hana was given command of the largest fleet ever assembled. Ships from every human navy were placed under her authority. The Sol Defense Force, the Colonial Guard, the Merchant Marine, even civilian vessels were militarized. We're not just defending ourselves, Hana told her new fleet commanders. We're defending every young mind in the galaxy, every species that has children, every form of life that grows and learns and dreams. Engineer Day, who had survived the New Eden attack, was brought to Earth to help design new weapons. His voice was quiet and cold as he described what he had witnessed. They ignored our defenses completely, Day reported. Our weapons meant nothing to them. But I've seen their technology now. I know how it works. And I know how to destroy it. Intelligence Officer Ryu began the massive task of tracking the Vorthak fleet. The aliens had disappeared into hyperspace after their harvest. But they had left traces. Energy signatures, hyperspace distortions, clues that could lead humanity to their home worlds. They think they're safe, Ryu told his team of analysts. They think we're just another victim species that will accept what happened and move on. They don't understand what they've awakened. Across human space, the transformation began. Factories that had produced consumer goods were converted to military production. Scientists who had studied peaceful technologies turned their attention to weapons of war. Artists and writers created propaganda that spread the word about the Vorthak threat. Captain Nara, formerly a cargo hauler, now commanded a converted battleship. Like thousands of other civilian captains, she had volunteered for military service. The moment she heard about New Eden. My daughter is safe on Earth, Nara told her new crew, but somewhere in the galaxy there are other children facing the same horror. We're going to make sure it never happens again. The scale of humanity's response shocked even their allied species. The peaceful traders who had known humans as reasonable negotiators now watched entire fleets being assembled for war. What has happened to your people? Asked Ambassador Kelth of the Zalanti Trade Union. You were always so calm, so diplomatic. You've never seen us angry before, replied Ambassador Sol, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council. You've never seen what happens when someone targets our children. The Galactic Council offered condolences and symbolic support, but most species wanted to avoid involvement. The Vorthak were too powerful, too dangerous, better to stay neutral, and hope they would be ignored. Humanity didn't want symbolic support. They wanted information about every Vorthak sighting, every contact, every rumor about the species that fed on children. General Leo, Leah's younger brother, took command of the ground forces. His troops were volunteers from every human world, united by rage and determination. We're not soldiers anymore, Leo told his officers. We're exterminators. Our job is to remove a plague from the galaxy. The war machine that humanity built was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't designed for conquest or defense. It was designed for complete annihilation of a specific target. Captain Kim, a former explorer, now led deep space reconnaissance missions. Her job was to find Vorthak worlds and map their defenses. The aliens had hidden themselves well, but they couldn't hide from an entire species that wanted them dead. As the months passed, the human war effort grew stronger. New weapons were developed specifically to counter Vorthak biotechnology. New ships designed for the single purpose of hunting alien harvesters. New soldiers trained to show no mercy to child killers. The peaceful explorers who had reached for the stars were gone. In their place was something harder, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. Humanity had learned that the galaxy contained horrors beyond imagination, and they had decided to become a horror themselves. A nightmare specifically designed to hunt nightmares. The Vorthak had awakened something they didn't understand. They had turned humanity's greatest strength, their love for their children, into an unstoppable weapon. Soon, they would learn what that meant. Intelligence Officer Ryu stared at the star charts covering every wall of his command center. Red marks showed confirmed Vorthak sightings. Yellow marks indicated possible contacts. Blue marks represented destroyed colonies where no survivors. Remained to tell what happened. There were too many blue marks. "How long have they been doing this?" asked his assistant, Analyst Yeon, as she added another blue mark to the chart. "How many species have they wiped out?" Ryu had been asking himself the same question for months. The pattern was clear once. You knew what to look for. Colonies that suddenly went silent. Research stations that stopped transmitting. Entire civilizations that simply vanished from galactic records. "At least 200 years, Ryu answered. "Maybe longer. They've been harvesting children across the galaxy for centuries. The humans had thought they were the first victims. Now, they realized they were just the latest in a long line of species that had watched their young consumed by Vorthak machines. Captain Nara's reconnaissance fleet had found the remains of 17 different civilizations. The ruins were always the same, empty cities where adult skeletons lay scattered, but no trace of children remained, not even bones. "They take everything," Nara reported from the bridge of her battleship. "Not just the neural energy, they take the bodies too, probably for spare parts for their bioships." The discovery had pushed human rage beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. The Vorthak didn't just kill children, they used every part of them to build their civilization. Xenobiologist. Wu studied captured Vorthak technology in his laboratory on Mars. Each device he examined revealed new horrors. Neural extraction units, biological processors, organic computers that ran on the memories of dead children. "Their entire species is built on murder," Wu reported to the Human Council. "Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology requires the death of young minds. They've created a civilization that can only survive by destroying others." The hunt for Vorthak worlds had taken 18 months. The aliens were careful to hide their presence, but they couldn't completely erase their tracks. Hyperspace left traces, energy signatures could be followed, and humans had become very good at tracking killers. Admiral Hana stood on the bridge of the flagship Vengeance, watching her fleet of 2,000 ships move through hyperspace. This was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Every ship was armed with weapons specifically designed to destroy Vorthak biotechnology. "How many worlds do we think they have?" asked Captain Kim, now serving as Hana's tactical advisor. "Intelligence estimates at least 50 inhabited systems," Hana replied. "But we're not stopping until we find every single one." The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Corvus, one of the alien species that had traded with New Eden, sent a secret message to human space. They had been victims of the Vorthak 50 years earlier. "Half our population was children when they came," the Corvus message explained. "When they left, we had no young at all. We barely survived as a species. We have been afraid to speak of it, but your courage has inspired us." The Corvus provided star charts showing 3 Vorthak systems. More importantly, they provided intelligence about Vorthak society and technology. The information was horrifying. "They breed other species like livestock," Intelligence Officer Ryu read from the Corvus files. "Entire worlds are used as farming. Operations where captured aliens are forced to produce children for harvest. Engineer Day worked around the clock developing countermeasures to Vorthak technology. His hatred for the aliens had turned him into humanity's greatest weapon designer. Every device he created was intended to cause maximum suffering to child killers. Their bioships have a weakness, Day explained to the fleet commanders. The neural networks that control them can be overloaded. If we hit them with the right frequency, their own stolen memories will tear them apart from inside. The quantum disruption weapons that Day designed were unlike anything humans had built before. They didn't just destroy Vorthak ships. They caused the stolen neural energy to backfire, creating feedback loops that would drive Vorthak crews insane before killing them. Scientist Bora worked on an even more ambitious project. If the Vorthak civilization was based on consuming other species' children, then the solution was to create a weapon that specifically targeted their ability to process neural energy. "We're developing a biological agent," Bora reported to President Tay. "A virus that will attack their neural processing organs. It won't harm other species, but it will be fatal to any creature that has ever consumed stolen memories." The virus was designed with terrifying precision. It would lie dormant in Vorthak systems until they tried to process neural energy from another species. Then it would activate, destroying their minds the same way they had destroyed countless children. Captain. Jin had become something different since losing his daughter. The gentle colony commander was gone, replaced by a cold hunter who lived only for revenge. He commanded the stealth ship Silent Death, designed to infiltrate Vorthak space undetected. "First target confirmed," Jin reported as his ship emerged from hyperspace near a Vorthak outpost. "Looks like a processing station. I can see bioships docked for neural energy transfer." The station was exactly what the humans had expected to find. Massive organic structures where stolen neural energy was refined and distributed throughout the Vorthak Empire. The place where children's minds were turned into fuel for alien war machines. Jin's ship was equipped with the most advanced human stealth technology. The Vorthak sensors couldn't detect it. They had no idea that Death was watching them from the shadows. "Beginning intelligence gathering," Jin reported. His scanners recorded everything: ship designs, energy patterns, defensive systems. But most importantly, they identified the locations of other Vorthak facilities. Scout leader Minho led reconnaissance teams to 12 different Vorthak systems. His mission was to map their civilization completely before the main attack began. No Vorthak world could be allowed to escape. "It's worse than we thought," Minho reported from the edge of the Vorthak core systems. "They have breeding worlds where they keep captured aliens. Entire populations exist only to produce children for harvest. The breeding worlds were the most horrific discovery yet. Millions of beings from dozens of species kept in conditions worse than slavery. Their only purpose was to reproduce so the Vorthak could harvest their young." Communications Officer Nari, now serving as Fleet Intelligence Coordinator, processed reports from all reconnaissance missions. The picture that emerged was of a civilization built entirely on the suffering of children. "They've been doing this for over 1,000 years, Nari reported. "They've consumed entire species. Races that should have reached the stars are extinct because their children were all harvested. The galaxy was full of empty worlds where civilizations had once thrived. The Vorthak had turned promising species into memories, using their children's minds to power their expansion across the stars." Dr. Yuna, still on New Eden Colony caring for the empty shells of harvested children, sent regular reports to the fleet. Her medical research had revealed something crucial about Vorthak technology. "They can't process adult neural patterns," Yuna explained. "Something about mature minds is toxic to their systems. That's why they only target children. Adult thoughts would poison their bioships." This discovery led to scientist Bora's most devastating weapon. If adult human thoughts were toxic to Vorthak systems, then a concentrated dose would be lethal. She began working on neural transmission bombs that would flood Vorthak ships with adult memories. General Leah coordinated the ground forces that would assault Vorthak worlds. Her soldiers were volunteers who had lost children to the harvest. They had trained for 2 years with one purpose: to kill every Vorthak they could find. No prisoners, Leah told her commanders. No mercy, no negotiation. They chose to build their civilization on dead children. Now they face the consequences. The human war machine had become something unprecedented in galactic history. An entire species united with the single goal of completely destroying another species, not conquering them, not defeating them, erasing them from existence. Admiral Hana received the final intelligence reports and prepared for the assault. 53 Vorthak worlds had been identified. Each one would be attacked simultaneously to prevent any from escaping. "Send the message to all fleet commanders," Hana ordered. "Operation Children's Vengeance begins in 72 hours. Remember what we're fighting for." Across human space, the largest military force in galactic history prepared for war. 2 million soldiers, 5,000 ships, weapons designed specifically to destroy child killers. The Vorthak had no idea what was coming. They thought humans were just another victim species that would accept their loss and move on. They had never faced a species that turned grief into a weapon. They were about to learn that some things in the universe were worse than death. And humanity had become one of those things. The attack began at exactly 0600 Galactic Standard Time across 53 star systems. Admiral Hana watched from the Bridge of Vengeance as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace around the Vorthak homeworld. 200 ships materialized in perfect formation, their weapons already charging. There was no declaration of war, no demand for surrender. The time for words had ended 2 years ago. "All ships, fire at will," Hana commanded. The human weapons were unlike anything the Vorthak had faced before. Quantum disruption beams tore through bioship hulls, causing the stolen neural energy inside to explode. Plasma missiles designed by Engineer Day overloaded Vorthak nervous systems, turning their own ships against them. Captain Jin's stealth ship emerged from the shadows near a Vorthak command station. His ship was small, but it carried the most devastating weapon humanity had created. A neural feedback bomb filled with the concentrated memories of human parents who had lost their children. "For May," Jin whispered, as he fired the weapon into the station's core. The bomb detonated inside the Vorthak Neural Processing Center. Thousands of human memories flooded their systems. Memories of love, of watching children grow, of teaching them to walk and laugh and dream. To the Vorthak, these memories were poison. Their bioships began to convulse and die as they were overwhelmed by emotions they couldn't process. General Leo's ground forces landed on 12 Vorthak worlds simultaneously. His soldiers wore armor designed to protect against neural extraction and carried weapons that specifically targeted Vorthak biology. They had trained for 2 years to kill child murderers, and they were very good at their job. "Remember the children," Leo transmitted to all ground units. "Show them the same mercy they showed our young." The Vorthak tried to fight back, but their weapons were designed to capture and harvest, not to kill quickly. Their bioships, powered by stolen neural energy, malfunctioned when faced with the adult human memories that poisoned their systems. Captain Kim led a squadron of fighters through the orbital defenses of a Vorthak breeding world. Below them, millions of captured aliens were kept in horrible conditions to produce children for harvest. Kim's mission was to free them and destroy the harvesting facilities. "Target the neural extraction plants first," Kim ordered her pilots. "Make sure those machines never work again." The fighter squadron dove toward the planet's surface, their weapons cutting through Vorthak defenses like fire through paper. The aliens had never faced an enemy that attacked with such focused rage. Every human pilot had seen the recordings from New Eden. They knew exactly what they were destroying. Engineer Day commanded the technical assault ship Retribution, loaded with every anti-Vorthak weapon he had designed. His ship's job was to destroy the central neural processing facilities that powered Vorthak civilization. "Beginning deployment of biological weapons," Day reported as his ship released clouds of Scientist Bora's viral agent into the atmosphere of a Vorthak industrial world. The Virus spread through the planet's biomechanical infrastructure, attacking any system that processed stolen neural energy. Within hours, the entire planetary grid began to fail as the virus destroyed the foundations of Vorthak technology. Scout leader Minho led special forces teams to infiltrate Vorthak research facilities. Their mission was to gather intelligence and destroy any data about neural harvesting techniques. Humanity wanted to ensure that this technology could never be recreated. Found their central database, Minho reported from inside a heavily defended research station. They've got files on every species they've harvested, thousands of civilizations. The database was a catalog of genocide spanning over a millennium. Species after species had been reduced to empty names in Vorthak files. Entire evolutionary trees had been cut short when their children were consumed. Minho planted explosive charges throughout the facility, then transmitted the database to human intelligence before destroying it. The galaxy needed to know the full extent of Vorthak crimes, but the knowledge itself had to be eliminated to prevent anyone from following their example. Communications Officer Nari coordinated the assault from her position aboard the command ship. Her screens showed the progress of battles across dozens of star systems. Everywhere the story was the same: Vorthak defenses crumbling under the focused assault of an enraged species. "Vorthak homeworld defenses are down," reported Captain Sarah from the battleship Nemesis. "Beginning orbital bombardment of neural processing centers. The massive bioships that had once terrified human colonies were helpless against weapons designed specifically to destroy them. Their living hulls burned in space as quantum disruption beams overloaded their nervous systems. Dr. Yuna, monitoring the battle from New Eden Colony, watched the medical scanners that tracked Vorthak biosigns across the galaxy. The readings were dropping rapidly as Bora's virus spread through their population. "The biological agent is working better than projected," Yuna reported. "Any Vorthak that has ever processed stolen neural energy is dying. The virus is targeting their entire civilization." The virus had been designed with cruel precision. It lay dormant until it detected the specific neural patterns associated with processing another species' memories. Then it activated, destroying the Vorthak nervous system from within. Only Vorthak who had never participated in harvesting would survive, and there were very few of those. General Leah's forces found the breeding worlds that Intelligence Officer Ryu had identified. The conditions were worse than anyone had imagined. Millions of beings from hundreds of species kept in cages and forced to produce children for harvest. "Medical teams to the surface immediately," Leah ordered. "Evacuation ships standing by. We're getting every survivor off these worlds." The rescued beings told stories that confirmed humanity's worst fears. Generations of families had lived and died in Vorthak breeding facilities. Children were taken for harvest as soon as they reached the optimal neural development stage. Parents never saw them again. Captain Nara's battleship engaged a Vorthak dreadnought above their capital world. The bioship was massive, built from the processed remains of countless harvested children. But it couldn't stand against weapons powered by parental rage. "Fire neural feedback torpedoes," Nara commanded. "Let them taste the memories of every parent they've destroyed." The torpedoes struck the dreadnought's neural core, flooding its systems with human emotions. The bioship convulsed as it tried to process feelings of love and protection that were completely alien to Vorthak understanding. Its systems overloaded and it died in space, taking its crew with it. Scientist Bora watched from her laboratory as her viral weapon spread across Vorthak space. The biological agent was more effective than she had dared hope. It was targeting not just individual Vorthak, but their entire biotechnological infrastructure. "The virus is adapting," Bora reported to President Tay. "It's learning to target new forms of Vorthak technology. Their entire civilization is collapsing at the biological level." The weapon was becoming more than Bora had designed. It was evolving, becoming specifically adapted to destroy anything connected to neural harvesting. It was as if the virus itself was driven by the same rage that motivated its creators. Captain Jin's stealth ship moved through the ruins of Vorthak orbital stations, documenting the destruction. Bioships drifted dead in space, their hulls cracked, and bleeding the fluids that had once been their lifeblood. The neural processing centers that had refined stolen memories were dark and silent. Vorthak military response is minimal, Jin reported. Their ships are dying faster than they can launch them. The virus is destroying their ability to coordinate. The Vorthak had built their entire military on biotechnology powered by harvested neural energy. When that technology began to fail, they had no backup systems. Their civilization was collapsing like a house built on rotten foundations. Admiral Hana received status reports from all 53 attack groups. The results were better than human command had dared hope. Vorthak resistance was crumbling everywhere. Their bioships were dying. Their planets were falling silent. Phase 1 complete, Hana announced to the fleet. All primary targets neutralized. Beginning Phase 2. Systematic elimination of all remaining Vorthak presence. Phase 2 was designed to ensure that no Vorthak could escape to rebuild their civilization elsewhere. Human ships would patrol every system, hunt down every survivor, and destroy every piece of technology that could be used to restart their harvesting operations. The galaxy watched in shock as humanity demonstrated what happened to species that targeted their children. The peaceful explorers who had once negotiated trade agreements were gone. In their place was something that could completely destroy a civilization in a matter of days. Other species began to understand why humans were so protective of their young. They had seen what humanity became when their children were threatened. It was a lesson the galaxy would remember for millennia. The Vorthak Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for over 1,000 years, was dying. Their bioships floated, dead in space. Their worlds fell silent one by one. Their civilization was being erased as thoroughly as they had erased so many others, and humanity was just getting started. President Tay stood before the Human Council in a chamber filled with the silent tension of a species about to cross a line from which there would be no return. On the screens around them, real-time feeds showed the systematic destruction of Vorthak civilization across 53 star systems. The conventional assault has been successful, Tay announced. Vorthak military capacity has been eliminated. Their harvesting operations have been destroyed. Their breeding worlds have been liberated. But intelligence confirms that small populations of Vorthak still exist in hidden colonies. The council members understood what this meant. As long as even one Vorthak survived, they could potentially rebuild their civilization and resume harvesting children from other species. The virus had been effective, but it couldn't reach every hidden outpost or secret facility. I am authorizing extinction protocol, President Tay continued. Complete biological elimination of the Vorthak species across all known and suspected territories. The vote was unanimous, just as it had been 2 years earlier. But this time, the council members knew exactly what they were choosing. They were choosing to become the thing they had always feared. A species capable of complete genocide. Scientist Bora had worked for 6 months developing the ultimate weapon. She called it simply the End, a quantum biological virus that would target the specific genetic markers that made a being Vorthak. It would kill them at the cellular level, breaking down their DNA and ensuring that nothing of their species could survive. The virus is species-specific, Bora explained to the small group of leaders who would authorize its deployment. It will only affect creatures with Vorthak genetic patterns, but once released, it will spread through any environment they've inhabited. Any world, any ship, any facility will become lethal to them. Captain Jin volunteered to deliver the weapon personally. His ship, Silent Death, had been modified for the mission. It carried a single warhead containing enough of the quantum virus to infect an entire solar system. This ends with me, Jin told Admiral Hana as he prepared for the mission. When I deploy this weapon, every Vorthak in the galaxy will die, including any that might be on board ships near human space. Hana understood the implications. They were about to commit complete genocide. No trials, no prisoners, no mercy. Every Vorthak in existence would be dead within days of the weapon's deployment. Engineer Day had designed the delivery system. The warhead would detonate in the upper atmosphere of the Vorthak homeworld, then the virus would spread through hyperspace using their own biotechnology against them. Every bioship, every organic computer, every piece of living technology would become a vector for their extinction. Their technology uses neural energy networks that span interstellar distances, Day explained. Once the virus enters those networks, it will spread to every Vorthak facility in the galaxy. We estimate complete species extinction within 72 hours. Dr. Yuna monitored the mission from New Eden Colony, surrounded by the empty shells of children whose minds had been harvested. She had become the keeper of humanity's conscience, ensuring they never forgot why this was necessary. Remember what they did to our children, Yuna transmitted to the fleet. Remember that they would do it again if given the chance. This isn't murder. This is prevention. Scout leader Minho led the final reconnaissance missions to confirm Vorthak positions. His teams identified the last hidden colonies, the secret research stations, the emergency bunkers where Vorthak survivors might attempt to rebuild. 17. Hidden facilities confirmed, Minho reported. All connected to the main neural network. The virus should reach them all. Communications Officer Nari handled the coordination between all human forces. Every ship, every station, every colony would monitor for signs of surviving Vorthak. If even one individual escaped the virus, they would be hunted down and eliminated. All ships report ready, Nari announced. Extinction protocol standing by for final authorization. Captain Jin's ship approached the Vorthak homeworld through the debris field of their destroyed orbital defenses. Dead bioships drifted around him like the corpses of enormous sea creatures. The planet below showed no signs of life. The virus from the initial assault had already killed most of the population. Beginning final approach, Jin reported. Target is the planetary neural core. Once I hit that, the virus will spread through their entire network. General Leo's ground forces had withdrawn from all Vorthak worlds. The quantum virus would make those planets uninhabitable for any Vorthak, but other species could eventually colonize them. The worlds would serve as monuments to the price of targeting human children. Intelligence Officer Ryu tracked the locations of every known Vorthak presence in the galaxy. His computers showed red dots for confirmed populations, yellow for suspected colonies, and blue for facilities that had already been destroyed. 417 confirmed or suspected Vorthak installations across the galaxy, Ryu reported. The neural network connects to all of them. Complete extinction is achievable. Admiral. Hana made the final authorization from her flagship. Around her, the human fleet waited in formation, ready to witness the end of a species that had terrorized the galaxy for over 1,000 years. Captain Jin, you are authorized to deploy extinction protocol. May the children we lost guide your aim. Jin armed the quantum virus warhead and targeted the neural core of the Vorthak homeworld. The weapon was beautiful in its simplicity. A single warhead that would end an entire species' existence. For every child they murdered, Jin whispered. For every parent they destroyed, for every species they consumed. The warhead detonated in the planet's atmosphere, releasing the quantum virus into the Vorthak neural network. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the galaxy, Vorthak bioships began to convulse and die as the virus spread through their interconnected systems. Scientist Bora monitored the virus's progress from her laboratory. Her instruments showed it spreading faster than projected, adapting to every form of Vorthak technology it encountered. The virus is exceeding all parameters, Bora reported. It's not just killing them. It's learning from their technology and becoming more effective. Complete species extinction confirmed within 48 hours. The Vorthak tried desperately to contain the virus, but it was too late. Their entire civilization was built on interconnected biological systems that now carried their death. Every attempt to isolate infected areas only delayed the inevitable. On worlds across the galaxy, Vorthak colonies went silent one by one. The hidden research stations that Minho had identified stopped transmitting. The secret bunkers where survivors had hoped to rebuild became tombs. Captain Nara's battleship detected the death of the last Vorthak dreadnought. The massive bioship had tried to escape into deep space, but the virus had followed it through hyperspace. It died alone in the void between stars, its crew consumed by humanity's final solution. Dr. Yuna received confirmation from medical scanners across human space. The biosigns that had tracked Vorthak populations for 2 years were flattening. One by one, every Vorthak in the galaxy was dying. Genetic extinction achieved, Yuna announced. No Vorthak life signs detected anywhere in monitored space. The species is extinct. The silence that followed was profound. Humanity had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had completely eliminated another intelligent species. Not conquered them, not defeated them, but erased them from existence as thoroughly as the Vorthak had erased so many others. General Leah's troops found the bodies on the last Vorthak worlds they had occupied. The quantum virus had been thorough. Every Vorthak was dead, their bodies dissolving at the cellular level. Nothing remained that could be used to clone or recreate their species. Engineer Day confirmed that all Vorthak technology had been neutralized. The bioships, the neural processors, the harvesting machines, everything was dead. The technology that had consumed countless children could never be used again. "It's over," Captain Jin transmitted from his ship above the silent Vorthak homeworld. "They're all gone. Every last one of them." Admiral Hana addressed the human fleet and the galaxy beyond. Her words would be remembered for millennia as the moment humanity demonstrated what happened to species that targeted their young. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy," Hana announced. "Humanity will tolerate many things. We will negotiate, we will compromise, we will forgive. But if you harm our children, we will erase you from existence. We will hunt you across the stars and eliminate every trace of your species." The Vorthak Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for over 1,000 years, was gone. Their worlds were empty. Their ships were dead. Their technology was destroyed. They had been removed from the universe as completely as if they had never existed. Humanity had become something new, a species willing to commit absolute genocide to protect their young. The galaxy would remember this lesson. Children were not prey. They were the future, and the future was protected by parents who would become monsters to keep it safe. The extinction was complete. The hunt was over. Justice had been served with the thoroughness that only a grieving parent could achieve. 6 months after the extinction of the Vorthak species, Dr. Yuna stood in the memorial garden on New Eden Colony. The garden was beautiful now, filled with flowers and trees from Earth, but she could still see the empty playground where children had once laughed and played. Around her, the shells of harvested children sat in chairs under the shade of memorial trees. They were still alive, their bodies healthy and cared for, but their minds were gone forever. May, Captain Jin's daughter, sat nearby, staring at nothing with empty eyes. "Good morning, May," Yuna said softly, as she did every day. "Your father saved the galaxy. Did you know that? He made sure no other children would suffer what happened to you." May didn't respond. She never responded. But Yuna kept talking to her, to all of them. Someone had to remember who they had been before the harvest. Someone had to carry the memory of their dreams and laughter. The galaxy had changed since the Vorthak extinction. Other species now spoke of humanity in whispers, their voices filled with a mixture of gratitude and fear. The peaceful traders who had once seen humans as reasonable negotiators now understood what lay beneath that calm exterior. Ambassador Saul stood before the Galactic Council, delivering humanity's annual address. The chamber was fuller than usual. Representatives from dozens of species wanted to hear what the child killer's executioners had to say. "The galaxy is safer now," Sewell announced. "The threat that terrorized civilizations for over 1,000 years is gone. Children across the galaxy can grow up without fear of being harvested for their minds." The applause was polite, but nervous. Everyone remembered the efficiency with which humanity had eliminated an entire species. The Vorthak had been monsters. But what did that make the species that had become monsters to stop them? President Tay addressed humanity from the capital on Earth. Behind her, memorial walls displayed the names and faces of every child lost to the Vorthak harvest. 8,000 names from New Eden, but the investigation had revealed millions more from other species across the centuries. "We did what was necessary," Tay told the human colonies scattered across the galaxy. "We became what we needed to become to protect our children." The galaxy now understands that human young are not prey. They are the future, and the future is protected. Captain Jin had retired after delivering the extinction weapon, but he couldn't find peace. He spent his days visiting the memorial gardens on different human worlds, speaking to parents who had lost children. They understood each other in ways that others couldn't. "The nightmares don't stop," Jin told a father on Mars colony whose son had been harvested 3 years earlier. "But neither does the certainty that we did the right thing. They would have kept killing our children forever if we hadn't stopped them." Engineer Day now oversaw the construction of memorial fleets, warships that patrolled the galaxy carrying the names of harvested children. Each ship was a reminder to any species that might consider targeting human young. "The ships aren't just memorials," Day explained to a gathering of alien ambassadors. "They're promises. Anyone who harms our children will face the same fate as the Vorthak: complete extinction." The memorial fleets had become symbols of humanity's transformation. Where human ships had once carried explorers and traders, they now carried weapons designed to eliminate child killers. The galaxy had learned to recognize them and give them wide berth. Admiral Hana commanded the largest memorial fleet from her flagship, now renamed Children's Guardian. Her mission was to patrol former Vorthak space and ensure that no trace of their technology could be recovered or studied. "We destroyed their species," Hana told her officers, "but we must also destroy their legacy. No one can be allowed to recreate their harvesting technology. No one can be allowed to follow their example." Scout leader Minho led exploration teams that searched for other species that might prey on children. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had learned that monsters could hide among the stars for centuries before being discovered. "We found evidence of another harvesting operation in the Tau Ceti sector," Minho reported to intelligence headquarters. "Not Vorthak, something else, something that's been taking children from primitive worlds." The report triggered immediate action. Within days, a human fleet was moving toward Tau Ceti. The galaxy now knew that when humans detected child predators, the response would be swift and absolute. Communications officer Nari coordinated the information networks that tracked any species showing interest in human children. Trade delegations were screened for signs of neural scanning technology. Research proposals involving child development were carefully examined. "Prevention is better than vengeance," Nari explained to her staff. "We watch for the signs that someone might be considering our children as targets, and we make sure they understand the consequences before they act." The screening protocols had identified 17 potential threats in the past 6 months. Each one had received a visit from a memorial fleet and a detailed explanation of what had happened to the last species that harvested human children. General Leah ran the training programs that prepared human soldiers for their new role as the galaxy's child protectors. Her troops were no longer just defending human colonies, they were defending all young life throughout known space. "We are not conquerors," Leah told her newest recruits. "We are guardians. We protect the innocent and eliminate those who would harm them. This is our purpose now." The training was intense and specific. Human soldiers learned to identify signs of child harvesting, to recognize neural extraction technology, and to respond with overwhelming force to any threat against young life. Scientist Bora continued her research, but now she focused on detection, rather than destruction. Her new instruments could identify neural harvesting technology from across a star system, giving early warning of potential threats. "The Vorthak virus was our last resort," Bora explained to her research team. "Now we work to ensure we never need such methods again. Detection and prevention are our goals." Her early warning systems had been installed throughout human space and were being offered to allied species. The galaxy was developing an immune system against child predators, with humanity as its primary defense mechanism. Intelligence Officer Ryu maintained files on every species in the galaxy, looking for patterns that might indicate harvesting behavior. His databases contained information on billions of individuals across thousands of worlds. "Trust, but verify," Ryu told his analysts. "Most species are peaceful, but we can't afford to miss another Vorthak. We watch everyone, and we're ready to act if necessary." The surveillance network that humanity had built was unprecedented in galactic history. No species had ever monitored the galaxy so thoroughly or with such focused purpose. Captain Nara commanded Memorial Fleet 7, which patrolled the Outer Rim territories where new species were still being discovered. Her mission was to ensure that humanity's protection extended to all children, not just human ones. "We found a species that was being farmed by slavers," Nara reported after liberating a world in the Proxima sector. "The children were being sold to buyers we haven't identified yet. We eliminated the slavers and are tracking the buyers. The liberation had been swift and brutal. Human forces had offered no negotiation, no compromise. The slavers were dead, their ships destroyed, their operations eliminated. The rescued children were being cared for while humanity investigated who had been buying them. Dr. Yuna received regular reports from across the galaxy about species that had been saved from harvesting operations. The Vorthak had not been the only child predators among the stars, but they had been the largest and most organized. 43 species have been protected in the past 6 months, Yuna read from her weekly summary. 17 harvesting operations eliminated. The galaxy is becoming safer for children of all species. But the cost of this protection was visible in every human face. They had become harder, colder, more willing to use violence to solve problems. The peaceful explorers were gone, replaced by guardians who would kill without hesitation to protect. The innocent. The transformation was complete when President Tay delivered humanity's new doctrine to the galaxy. The speech was broadcast to every known civilization, translated into thousands of languages. "Humanity has learned a hard truth about the universe," Tay announced. "Peace is only possible when evil is eliminated completely. We tried diplomacy, negotiation, and compromise. But some threats can only be stopped by extinction." The doctrine was simple. Any species that targeted children would be completely destroyed. No warnings, no second chances, no mercy. Humanity had become the galaxy's immune system against child predators. "We did not choose to become monsters," Tay continued. "But when monsters came for our children, we became something worse than monsters. We became extinction itself." The galaxy understood the message. Children were protected now by a species that had proven its willingness to commit genocide to defend them. The price of targeting the young was species-level extinction. Years passed, and the memorial gardens on New Eden grew larger. Each garden contained reminders of what humanity had lost and what they had become to prevent others from suffering the same loss.